Hello. This is a very important topic that I've been meaning to make a video about for a long time but haven't, because I know that I can't include everything that I want to in here in enough detail, but I'll also put some links in the description if you want to read about some of this stuff kind of in a more scientifically explained way than I'm going to go through in this video. I'm basically going to talk about what gender identity really is, or what the term is supposed to refer to, because I think there's a lot of confusion when it gets thrown around, because it's been shortened not only to just the word gender, but has also been conflated with the sociological definition of gender, which, if you look up online or in a dictionary, or basically if you ask anybody who isn't talking in the realm of, transsexualism, they'll tell you that it's like the social norms attached to being male or female, or something similar to that. I may not have worded it completely correctly, but that's the general gist. Whereas gender identity is more of this internal sense of being male or female, outside of any kind of gender norms or anything else. It's this really concrete thing, but at the same time, that being said, it's not 100% understood at this point, but there is a lot of evidence surrounding it. So, gender identity was originally a term used in describing transsexual people who felt like their internal sense of whether they were male or female conflicted with their physical body's representation of whether they were male or female. So somebody with a female body and female sex characteristics feels in fact internally that they are male. And this, as you can see, is a very vague way of describing it, like an internal sense. But transsexualism is beginning to be looked at as a neurological condition. Human brains and brains of a lot of other mammals do have this section that is sexually dimorphic, meaning that it is different between males and females. And this is not to say that the whole brain of a male and a female is different, or that it causes different behaviors or abilities or anything like that. There's one specific section, and I'll put a diagram up, where the amount of nuclei in the brain is different for males and females, where males almost completely reliably have double the amount of nuclei. And what has been found in transsexual individuals post-mortem is that they had the amount of nuclei that matched the gender that they claim to be internally. So a female to male transsexual person had the nuclei count of a cisgender male person. And this was before hormone replacement therapy. So what can be drawn from this is that this section of the brain corresponds to somebody's gender identity. There is also a part of the brain called the somatosensory cortex, and basically this part of the brain corresponds to tactile sensation, movement, and also it plays an important role in body image, that is, how you perceive your body to look and feel. And you can see a diagram I'll put in here as well. Different parts of the body are mapped out on different regions of the brain. Corresponding to this, there have been lots of cases outside of transsexualism that show of people with a phantom limb syndrome. If somebody has to get an arm or a leg amputated, they often feel a phantom limb there, where it feels as though the limb is still there, even though it obviously isn't. This also happens with genitals. If men have had to get their penis cut off due to some kind of medical issue, then the vast majority of men do get, a phantom penis syndrome, in a sense. And the same thing happens with women who get mastectomies. Not all women or men get this phantom limb thing, but a lot of people do. And they have done studies regarding this phantom limb thing with transsexual people, where transsexual women, after having bottom surgery, have a much lower percentage of experiencing phantom limb syndrome after having, that body part cut off, compared to cis men who have had to have that body part cut off. And the same thing has been found, a much lower percentage of transsexual men after getting a top surgery don't have the phantom breast syndrome like a lot of women tend to have after having the same kind of surgery. They've also found that transsexual men seem to self-report phantom penis syndrome even though they never had one. And what all this implies is that that body part was mapped out in the brain of that individual. For example, transsexual men who were born physically, female, it's theorized that they have the somatosensory cortex corresponding to male characteristics, which is why they feel this phantom limb kind of thing about a body part that they supposedly don't have. And the same is true for transsexual women. And what causes this kind of misalignment between these characteristics found in the brain and the physical sex that one is observably born as is not conclusively known. It's theorized that it may be due to a hormone surge prenatally, because the brain and the sex characteristics of the brain, these sexually dimorphic characteristics, develop at a different point than the gonads. Where the gonads are formed earlier, they're differentiated between male and female earlier in the pregnancy, then the brain is differentiated between male and female later in the pregnancy. So there's a chance that these two things happen independent of each other. It's very unlikely, but when it does happen, that's said to be what happens in transsexual individuals. And okay, so let's say that all of this is undoubtedly true. People will still ask, well, how do you know whether you have a male or female brain? How do you know if your brain doesn't match with your physical body? And that is a thing that right now is up to evaluating through the individual's experience and self-reporting. That's why it has to be diagnosed psychologically, just because those are the only observable symptoms that we can deal with at the moment. It does manifest itself in an observable way, though, in the way of dysphoria. One experiences dysphoria due to this mismatch between the brain and the body. I mean, if your brain has mapped out for male body characteristics and yet your body does not have those, it causes a lot of tension and uneasiness, to put it lightly, in the individual. So I have another video about dysphoria, so I'm not going to go into that a lot, but that basically is the manifestation of the mismatch between the brain and the body. And it's important to see transsexualism this way because it furthers its categorization into being a medical condition, which allows us to then get medical treatment for a condition that we did not choose to have. It also, if people look at this and understand what causes it or what might cause it, that it's not something that somebody simply chooses to take upon themselves. It's something that is there whether we like it or not, and it's our decision whether to try and seek treatment for it. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit convoluted or confusing. It's kind of very complicated to try and sum up, and even I'm sure there's things that I've missed out that are important, but I just want to lay it out there that there are biological elements to this condition, and I think it's very important to see it that way. It's going to allow us to further understand everything behind this, and also allow us to have access to the kind of treatments that we need. Right, well, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Alright, thanks, bye.